Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Trading the Markets. But of course, as you know, we are an AI show now, and we are talking all things AI and everything involved in this technology that's basically going to drive our future. And a lot has happened since we were last on the show on Wednesday. I'm sure a lot of you have heard Jack Dorsey announced his company Block was laying off just over 40% of their staff, and they cited basically because of AI, that AI tools had reached a point where it was doing, just jobs incredibly efficient, and it basically, rendered some people moot, right? And they basically removed 40% of their staff. So this is coming, guys. So you can either let it pass you by or learn how to use it and become your best selves and give yourself some job security in the process. And that's what this show is about too. We're here to help you learn how to use this technology, go over ways that Kris, myself, and members in RV are using this as well, so that you can learn how to use it yourself, think of ideas, and then maybe you'll be on this show one day telling us about ways you're using AI and how we can improve our workflows and our lives. So keep that in mind as you're watching this show. It's a learning experience for all of us. And of course, if you have any questions, let us know, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. So, and with that said, of course, the exponentialist, when we're talking about future tech, exponentialist is front and center. So David Matten is going to be on with Rao tomorrow on RPJM to have a great conversation. And I think you guys might want to stay tuned because there could be a nice little deal in it for you guys as well that are looking to trade in this future exponentialist economy that we're heading into. So with that out of the way, on today's show, Kris is going to go over just some more AI news that hit the presses that he thinks is important to go over. We're going to be talking with community member Texas Tyler, and he's going to be showing us how he uses AI in his workflow in life. And of course, Kris is going to show us some things he's picked up as well. So Kris, how you doing? What you got for us today?
Doing great. Super excited. Before we get going on this stuff, I did want to circle back around to that Jack Dorsey post. That was really an interesting thing to read. I actually read through it twice and was like, wow, this is, I've never seen anything like this in some ways. It was basically saying we're doing very well and we're laying off, 40% of our staff primarily because we're doing so well. And it was so interesting. He was so transparent, the way he laid out the severance package that everybody's going to be getting, how the company was actually doing. And honestly, if I was ever going to get laid off, I wouldn't mind being, I know that's probably stupid and naive to say, but I wouldn't mind being, experiencing something like that, I should say. I thought it was very sort of tastefully handled for such an unfortunate thing for those people. But yeah, just a crazy thing. Reflective again, like you said, of what's going on with everything in our society right now. It's just wild.
And I'm sure, Kris, I'm sure the severance packages didn't hurt that message landing either. Right. But
right.
And I think, Jack Dorsey, right, he's a leader in tech, right? And I just have a feeling that quite a few more companies are going to be following suit in the near future.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And hopefully they do it as well as he did, or even better, the fact that they are doing as well as they are certainly makes it so that they can afford to do what they're doing. They're basically paying people for 20 weeks plus 1 week per year of tenure, plus, they get to keep all their corporate devices, plus 6 months of healthcare, plus $5,000 towards anything they need, all of that's great. That's months and months of runtime basically, right, for those people. So yeah, anyway, moving along. So another big story over the week was the sort of Anthropic feud with the government and the fallout that happened there. The government immediately saying that they're blocking them from conducting any business with any entity that does work with the government or does government contracts. Interestingly, though, while that was happening, we saw Anthropic Claude overtook ChatGPT as the number one downloaded app on the App Store, on the Apple App Store. And it's reflective, I think, of a shift in consumer loyalty and a reminder that retail consumers, unlike the government, actually care deeply about AI ethics and data privacy and things like that. So, people were worried, how is Claude gonna kind of recover from this? Is this going to be damaging to their future? Things like that. But, while the government, we know, is making a number of, I guess, questionable decisions right now, certainly it's clear that Claude isn't going anywhere. And then Claude, smartly striking while the iron is hot, immediately announced a new feature that allows people to basically upload or sync their ChatGPT history into Claude basically within minutes. So if you want to transfer over, if you're one of those people that are like, yeah, I like Claude, but I've been using ChatGPT for 2 years now and I've got all this history, you can just move it right over to Claude like nothing to it, which is fascinating. And so I think Claude's not going anywhere. I mean, we know they've got by far the best engine for LLM, rather, for coding, for a lot of things right now. They're doing very well. They're kind of the number one, and they're capitalizing on that. They're easily making it easy to migrate over and take customers from everywhere. And so I think OpenAI very much has a target on its back at this point, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out going forward. Randomly, another interesting headline that I came across as I was looking through news to share, basically a district court judge issued a sort of first of its kind ruling that sensitive documents generated by an individual using a public commercial AI tool and then later shared with their lawyer are not protected by attorney-client privilege. So I thought that was very noteworthy because I know a lot of people think that a lot of people use these tools, these LLMs, and think that nobody sees what they're typing in, and in fact, that's not true at all. And I think that that's an important point to drive home, that not only do people see on the other end what you type in and can search it and it is recorded, but also it can be used in legal cases and court cases and things like that. It can be deemed public information that can be used in a trial, potentially against you. So just know that when you're using these LLMs, that anything you say on there can potentially be shared to the public. Not that it's going to, but that the potential exists. So just know that and be wary of that. Don't just go dump in your whole life story and don't put private personal information in or anything. Basically, don't type anything in there that you wouldn't want somebody else to see. So don't put your bank accounts, your PIN numbers, your passwords, anything that's going to allow people to use that as like an attack vector against you. Keep that in mind. That's important. And I think that's important for people to know, because a lot of people come into AI and they just see this chat bot and they just start typing and they don't really realize what's going on the other end of that, and I think that this is an important detail that people need to be cognizant of. So yeah, wanted to share that.
Yeah, well said, Kris, because and ChatGPT reminds you of these things too, or at least the LLMs, at least ChatGPT, because I'm not using Claude so much, but I might now that we see what's happening here with this news you just shared. But it warns you as well from sharing this, because as I'm like playing around with OpenClaw and trying to troubleshoot some things, and it gives me some suggestions of what I can input in my terminal, it always reminds me, do not paste your API keys or paste your Discord token ID in this chat. Treat it as a password. So it's also reminding you, which I think is cool. But yeah, that's a great piece of information. Don't share that personal information if you don't want it getting out there. So well said, Kris. Yeah, it did. Claude did that for me too. I accidentally pasted an API key in when I was working on a project, and it stopped me and it says, "You just pasted an API key in here. You need to go generate a new one right now." Yeah,
like before we do anything. And I was like, "Oh, right, yes, of course." So yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, Kris. So you got some interesting stuff that you've been using recently. Why don't we dive into that?
Yeah. So what I wanted to talk about, what I've been working on this week for me personally to use AI in my sort of investing journey, is a couple days ago, I saw TradingView put out a new blog post that they introduced this new feature called, it says volume footprints are now available in Pine scripts. And so you can use this request.footprint to retrieve volume volume footprints. Now, what does that mean? Let me get into what that actually means. So a volume footprint, if we're looking at this chart here, TradingView has the ability to view, you turn on this volume footprint and notice how the candles change. And this is really wild. If you zoom in now and look at these and zoom way in, it actually tells you, it's sort of showing you the order books. It's showing you the order flow. It's showing you like how many orders are placed at given price levels for each candle, which is really wild, you know? And so I was like, this is cool, but in my head, I'm like, how can I make this useful for me? Like, what can I actually do to benefit from this? And so normally, like when I go to, Claude or Gemini or whichever tool I'm using on a given day, I try to set like defined parameters and sort of narrow the scope down of what I'm looking to accomplish so that it sort of gives me the best results right out of the gate. But in this case, I didn't really know even what I wanted necessarily. So in this case, I just took that same article, that blog post, saved it to a PDF and just went to Claude and was like, here's a new feature added to TradingView that I think is useful. Can you help me brainstorm some ideas on what I can even do with this? And it can be that simple. Like if you just see something and you're like, I like this, I don't know what this means, but it seems cool. Just go to your favorite LLM and just start talking to it. This is a way you can use it too. Again, I know it's better if you have a defined scope, but you can also do this. And yes, you'll have to answer a lot more questions. And yes, it may take you longer to ultimately get to what you're looking for, but it's fine if you don't know what it is you're looking for, So I put this in, it gave me a handful of ideas. And of course I was like, well, all of these sound cool. Let's do all of them and see what they look like, because I can't really tell just from 2 sentences what this is actually going to do in terms of how this will benefit me, So it started working on one. It ended up being kind of stupid. So I was like, forget that. Let's move on to the next one. And the next one it gave me ended up being really cool. And so I'm going to demo what it ended up being. And it's this indicator here that I've created at the bottom. And so it's called Order Flow Breadth and Aggression Index. And so remember what we were looking at before with the candles where it shows the order information, the order book information within each candle. So what it did for me is it made kind of a moving average, this big, long moving average. It made a moving average of essentially the order flow over a specified period of time, whether it's a move like a 14-day or 14 bar or 20 or 30, you can change it. And so it does that, and I'll get into all of it here in a second. Second from that, it makes these little histogram bars behind that show sort of outsized order flow on a given day or a given bar, rather. And then this kind of purple and yellow line is what's called the point of control. And the point of control, in its simplest terms, is essentially just the price at which the most trading volume is occurring. And so it's sort of like a moving average of the point of control. Now, what can I do with this? How is this useful? Well, I started looking at this and I noticed, I'm looking at, well, here, let me turn on this highlighter. Okay, so I'm looking at both the price action here, if I can just use the right button, the price action here, and then also the I guess aggressor line here. And we note that it ran up as Bitcoin was running up here. As soon as Bitcoin peaked, the order flow basically dropped off. It just went straight negative again, showing that buyers were no longer in control. Sentiment had dropped, order flow had dropped, and all the way down into the negatives. So even though price itself stayed sideways for a little while here, I can see from this indicator that the order flows were no longer essentially propping the price up, which told me that this is weakening. Like this is losing steam. This is quickly gonna drop. And sure enough, it did. And so that was useful. And then if we kind of look in this next area here, in this chunk here, we can see a couple things took place. One, the order flows never got up nearly as high as they did back here in this range. Even though price itself got higher, the orders were less intense overall, telling me that even though this, formed a higher price high, it was on lower volume, less sort of enthusiasm, less buyers, and things like that. So this tells me that there was less strength in this later rally. And then also we notice it peaked right here. again, right here, and then just dropped off and stayed really negative, like down in this lower red range, which tells us that very much sellers are very much in control of this entire thing. Also, outsized selling interest, happening. So again, this is a big signal that this level right here is just kind of sitting on vapor, being held up on vapor, essentially. There's nothing really to hold it up, which is, again, a leading sign that there's likely it's going to roll over, pretty soon. And so I think that this turned out to be a fantastic use of this new function that's built into TradingView and this new tool. And you can use it. I've been using it with lots of different assets. It works great on indexes. It works great on stocks. And so I published it. I was like, well, this is cool. I'm gonna make it real. So you can actually go into TradingView and install it. So like let me just go to about the script. So if you just go into the public indicators, just search for order flow breadth and aggression index. You can mark it as a favorite here. It's just in there. It's public. It's by Blastoplast, by myself, and I even had Claude write me out like a full description and instruction set on how to use it, so that it's very easy for people to get up to speed on what it is they're even looking at here, and how it why it matters, and how to use the different settings and things like that. So yeah, this is what I did with Claude this week, and I had a great time doing it. It was a lot of fun. I had fun kind of tweaking the settings and figuring out, again, how it was actually useful for me, and trying it on lots of different assets. And I'm going to keep using it going forward. It's going to be one of my go-tos for just getting a sense of where order flows are, where the actual strength is lying. It's one of the other interesting things too with Bitcoin in particular is it's important to know that this indicator is exchange specific. So it's pulling the order flow data from whatever exchange you have, for whatever asset that your chart is set on, basically. So in this case, it's looking at Coinbase. And Coinbase, we know, is the largest US exchange, so it has the most US-centric volume. And if we look at this volume bar here today, we can see it punched way up really high. But if we change this to Binance, we know Binance is the larger sort of global order flow proxy, if you will. And so we can see here that the order flow is slightly less. And it's interesting to sort of go back and forth and look, because it gives you clearer insight on what's going on from a US perspective versus a global perspective in terms of order flows. And you can do this, again, for any asset you want, really, that's traded on all these exchanges. So lots of insight here. And the more you look at it and the more you apply it, the more you'll learn from it. It works on multiple time frames. I've primarily been using it on a daily and a weekly, but you can use it on intraday time frames as well if you want. If you're day trading and you want to see on a very sort of minute level what the order flows are looking like on a 4-hour basis or a 1-hour basis, you can use it for that too. So yeah, super cool. Like I said, I had a good time with it.
And I can tell it's working because I'm looking at the order flow there. And obviously today, that's a pretty big green bar compared to, the last, almost all year, right? So, right. And today we're up quite a bit compared to where we have been all of 2026. So clearly it's working pretty well. So I want to see this on Monday's show. To start the show, I want to go over this indicator. This looks so cool. This will be the indicator of the week, maybe even also.
Oh, yes. No, I was actually going to do that too. You read my mind. For sure.
Because that is so awesome. We're going to dive. We're obviously, we're going to be seeing how this indicator progresses, but that's so cool that you're able to just create an indicator through vibe coding essentially in Claude, right? And then see how it worked and then upload it for the rest of the community to benefit from it. So I think that's so cool. And I'm sure for people that want to start monetizing this stuff, I'm sure you can make it a paid indicator, right, as well. And if people want to pay for it, hey, right?
Again, yeah, exactly. And again, I want to point out, this all started from just a blog post, a simple idea. I didn't even know what I wanted necessarily, but I just saw something that looked interesting. I knew what that information was going to convey. And I was like, I bet I can make something cool out of this. And so I just, hopped on Claude. Here's the blog post. Let's figure something out. And I had this going within probably 20 minutes. And I was like, yeah, this is awesome. I love it. So yeah.
And I think what you said when you were, posting the blog post in there and kind of working through what you wanted, You said that obviously it's good if you know what you want, right? You'll get more, efficient outputs, if you will. But that's kind of also what these LLMs are for. It helps you figure out what you want, because a lot of times we don't even have a clue what we want, but when we hear it or see it, we know that that's what we wanted. So it is good to maybe take a little bit of time and refine that approach, so it actually spits out something that you wanted, and even adds things that maybe you didn't even know you wanted, right? So I think that's it's a really cool way to use it. So thank you for sharing that with us, Kris.
Yeah.
Before we bring on Texas Tyler, we do have a question from the audience. So let's take that first. So this one comes from Red. I'm thinking of buying a Mac Mini or Studio for OpenClaw. Any thoughts? I'm sure I could ask Claude. You definitely can, Red. But my investing workflow is pretty weak. So is my life workflow. So I suppose they can be optimized. Burger is amazing to watch. Yes, he is. And the Substack from Peter Diamandis was really inspiring. So basically, Red's question is, he's thinking of buying a Mac Mini or Studio for OpenClaw and wants our thoughts on that. Kris, I'll let you give your thoughts first.
Yes, well, there's a few things you have to ask yourself. One, do you know what you're going to use it for? And then two, one of the reasons people buy, Mac Minis or even anything more powerful than that is if they decide at some point down the road they actually want to run an LLM locally on the computer. Like the more you want to run local, the more sort of horsepower you need to process that. But if you're just going to connect it to like Claude or whatever, any kind of LLM, like an API, and just have it go out and be doing API calls and sort of using a cloud-based LLM, you don't need a super high-powered computer to do that. You can literally use any old laptop, any old piece of junk that you might have laying around, and just throw like a base Linux installation on it and install OpenClaw on that. And as long as it's connecting to public cloud-based LLMs, it'll work fine on that all day long. You can, of course, if you don't have any extra old computer laying around, then sure, go buy a Mac Mini or just buy something cheap. If Mac Minis are sold out or you don't want to spend the $600 or whatever they are, buy the cheapest computer you can find, because literally that's all you need.
Yeah.
I'm running my OpenClaw on like a 10-year-old old PC that I had like sitting in a closet for years that I haven't literally turned on in 5 years. And I'm like, I wonder if this thing still works. I'm going to go plug it in. And I have OpenClaw running on it. It's super fast. Again, just use a base Linux installation. If you don't know how to do that, ask any LLM. It'll tell you how to set it up. And it runs great. It's totally fast and it's fine. So just know that. And then also in terms of what you're going to use it for, really what people are doing with these are having them, giving them instructions and having them kind of just go off and be doing stuff all the time and integrating them into routine tasks for you and things like that. And for that type of stuff, it's very helpful. But if you're the kind of user where you don't necessarily have routine tasks that you want to automate or things like that, and you're happy to sort of go on to a web interface of a chatbot, or maybe you have Claude installed locally or something and you just want to type in there, you're perfectly fine to do that too. So it's really if you want to be using the more agentic functions of it and you want it to be going and sort of working on your behalf kind of all the time and connected to an API, then by all means do it. And there's nothing wrong with doing both. I do both too. But my point is here is I want you to understand what it is that you're doing and maybe know why you're trying to do it and make sure it's something you actually need to do. So I hope that offers some clarity. I don't know, Bijan, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, well said, Kris. I want to add to that as well. Like, I am using it on a 5-year-old MacBook Air and it's running just fine. No issues there, Red. So if you want to just use like Kris said, use an old computer, you don't have to buy something brand new. One thing I do want to talk about, because a lot of people have been using a VPS, a virtual private server, combined with a virtual private network VPN to set up and host basically their OpenClaw through a private server, somewhere else, not on their own network. And I guess there are the line of thinking behind that was that it's not on your home network, so it doesn't have access to your home internet and it can't really mess things up. However, I would caution against that because a lot of creators on YouTube, for example, are showing you how to set up OpenClaw by using a VPS. So by default, you're going to think, oh, like, oh my God, that's super safe because, it's virtual private server through VPN. I'm good. I'm set, not on my home network. Not the case, though, because these virtual private servers, like anything, can be compromised, and then your IP addresses and your API keys and everything can just be completely exposed, which is basically worse than having it on your local network. Whereas if you have it like essentially on your local network and you just set it up through your, MacBook, whatever it is you have lying around, you're not exposed unless you specifically give it permissions to start doing some like shady or like, compromising things that would expose you. So I want to just caution against that. Unless you really know what you're doing with the VPS and VPN, just kind of be careful with how you set that up. Plus also to set it up through a VPS and VPN, it's like really like technically intensive that like 99.9% of people don't really understand what they're doing and they're just following someone else giving them commands. So that's another thing. Like you kind of also want to know what you're doing with this. So just keep that in mind, Red. Again, like Kris said, if you have any questions, come to us in Discord. Ask Claude. It can definitely help you out there. And just kind of go from there. Hopefully that covers it for you, Red. Again, ask us if you have any questions. Now, with that said, I want to bring on a Real Vision member. Goes by the username Texas Tyler. So Texas Tyler is here to talk to us, like I said at the beginning of the show. He's here to talk to us about how he's using AI and how it's improving his workflow and life as well. Texas Tyler, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing great, Bijan. Thank you so much for that intro. Kris, I'm here with Real Vision Royalty. This is amazing, man. Thank you so much for the opportunity to give back to the community.
Absolutely. And we appreciate you, just being willing to share what you're doing. So just real briefly, and I want to let everyone know that for this portion of the show, you come and join us on platform to see how Texas Tyler is using it and ask him questions. But real quickly, before we go to platform, can you tell us briefly kind of what you're going to kind of talk to us about today and how you're using this?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll kind of start big picture, and I think my message is going to be especially appealing to the folks out there that are intimidated by a lot of this stuff and haven't tried it. It's interesting, but where do I start? So, my background, I'm not one of these 600-pound brains like Kris or Jamie or these guys. I'm not a TA wizard. I mostly just, I ingest all the information I can, and probably like a lot of people listening, there are times where I find myself just overwhelmed, and I'm like, there's too much. I don't know what to think about it. I don't know how to synthesize it all together. So this dashboard that I built was basically an attempt to try to do that, to try to be more efficient with my time. I'm a working dad, 2 kids. My wife has 2 jobs. The whole deal. And I was like, how do I squeeze more time out of my day, and how do I make my life a little bit less stressful? And so this is set up with that purpose in mind.
Oh my God, I'm getting really excited to hear about that because that's essentially what this is for. Simplify your workflows, make you more efficient, better at work. But that also, while you're getting better and more efficient at work, which in the old world would take more of your time, you're actually freeing up your time so that you can spend it with the people that you love. So I absolutely am looking forward to hearing this from Texas Tyler. So everyone, go on over to realvision.com and join us on the platform to see what Texas Tyler is building. So we'll see you all there in just a few moments. So come on and join us. All right, everyone. I think we're on the platform now. So in case we're not, hopefully AI can tell us that we are. Texas Tyler, I don't want to take any more of your time, so I'm going to hand it over to you. Tell us what you're doing. Show us what you're building. Talk to us.
All right. Thanks again, for the great intro, Bijan, and hopefully we're not just talking to ourselves here. I'll take your word for it. So I think what I'll do, if you don't mind, is I'll just kind of give an overview and then give you guys an opportunity to laugh at the dumb decisions I made and all that kind of stuff. And then if you like, I can go into kind of some of the finer details and why